Hello Drag Race fans, my name is Jer, welcome to my channel. Let's discuss the iconography of the Golden Beaver, which is certainly a regularly colored beaver, and how this is one of the best reality show twists for a drag competition that could have happened. Which, I think this is absolutely going to revive the Canada's Drag Race franchise to a competitive level of the United States going forward, success-wise. They have to keep this trope going and not let it go, because this was excellent television. This was excellent reality show drama. This was excellent competition drama. The Golden Beaver had every opportunity to be as iconic as lipstick poles the first time those were introduced, all the way back in All Stars 2. There were no real rules on how they had to use the beaver, except to save one queen from having to fight for their spot by lip syncing. This is a nice twist for a lot of different reasons, but let's get into that. This decision took a bit of power out of the hands of the judges and production, something that a lot of us often complain about, that we feel that something is just slightly unfair. And it allowed the queens the exclusive right to determine who would skim by from week to week for whatever parameter they decided. The beaver had an equal opportunity to be a massive flop, as it could have been used incorrectly in the eyes of the audience, in the same way that audiences get frustrated that Roxy, Latrice, or even India Farah made it farther than they ought to have due to, quote, mismanagement of the All-Stars lipstick polls. However, what the beaver did not do was, with full certainty, send someone back to the house like the lipsticks did. And we saw in numerous situations that the fate truly was in the hands of the bottoms, and not in the hands of a tactical queen trying to get to the top. With lipstick polls, the fate of a fan favorite is purely in the tight grasp of a calculated move. Keep Roxy, who will likely be in the bottom next week, or get rid of Tatiana, who could soar to the top easily again, with the same resilience to the bottom like she had in her original season. The Golden Beaver, or the regular beaver as I like to call it, gave us just enough calculated drama that we could appreciate the decisions and also not worry that someone was for sure going to go home. Because at the end of the day, it was their decision to fight in that final lip sync. Let's analyze each week, and let's talk about if this specific scenario could work in a mainline season or even as an All-Stars format replacement. And I think it should. Starting in episode 2 in QV She, where Kitten Caboodle used the beaver as tactfully as she could by saving the girlfriend experience, feeling that she had a small stumble and would easily bounce back the following week. While this was obviously an incorrect assessment, she did it knowing that Cece did not want to be saved, and Luna was clearly holding back her potential in the competition. Girlfriend in that moment was the fairest to save. This was an extremely safe move for the very first beaver assignment. It doesn't put a big target on Kitten's back for being tactful, and theoretically would have set the competition to be fair overall with judgment of who received the beaver from week to week. I think competitors like Kitten were hoping that the rest of the competitors would follow that same goodwill logic that she was using. In episode 3 Oshigagan, we saw a massive shift in judgment when Aurora Matrix gave the beaver to Kiki Ko. While Kiki had objectively one of the best looks on the runway, her performance in the challenge was flat and weak, in the same way that the girlfriend experience was. Kitten's placement always confused me in this challenge, as others seemed weaker than her as well as on the runway. And with her previous win under her belt, it seemed that the most fair decision overall was to save Kitten. I think Aurora misjudged Kitten's lip-syncing ability and assumed that the girlfriend experience would send her home packing. This set in motion that the Golden Beaver was never going to be as fair as Kitten originally tried to place from the first beaver assignment. The amount of television drama was precisely what I believe production wanted, and exactly the type of drama that a US season would expect from giving power to the queens like this. Especially since Aurora never outright stated that she was being tactical with her decision, but it was clear from her choice that she was being strategic. I think she incorrectly assumed that the strongest competitor would get sent home in a song that was clearly designed for this young, sexy competitor. In episode 4, Out of the Closet, we got one of the best television moments of all time, when Melinda Verga exploded about her perception from the judges, as well as the infamous fight between Nira and Amy Yonsei Chanel, with the outcome of this fight being save Melinda so we could put on a show. Kiki winning this challenge and having an opportunity to put on a great show for the judges proved just how messy this beaver could be, and I think again, spiraled how this beaver was meant to be used, and instead created a brilliant through line for what this season could provide drama-wise. Rather than save someone based on track record, which is how Kiki seemed to want to vote, she chose to be messy and put on a show by saving Melinda, allowing for further explosions and for this great lip sync moment to happen. I think she knew in her head that Melinda would not have fought that hard, and the song would have gone to waste. She saw the potential of what Amy and Nira could do, and allowed that to happen on television. Even though I'm sure that production wanted Melinda to go home this week. I think they assumed that Kiki would be fair in her deliberation and would use the beaver how they would have wanted her to, but she didn't. Next to episode 5's Snatch Game, we caught a real glimpse of what a Golden Beaver situation would look like in a US season. As US queens tend to form alliances and help each other out when needing to do so. Melinda returning her favor to Kiki by saving her from the bottom when Aurora had a better track record. And to this point, Melinda wanted to play fairly with each week and how the Golden Beaver should play out. She folded to the power of the beaver and made an alliance move, hoping it would secure a spot for her in the future. Again, another miscalculated judgment. This also creates a power imbalance, where Kiki's been in the bottom so many weeks that if she ends up in the bottom with Kiki, the others might choose Kiki over Melinda just because Kiki hadn't had a chance to lip sync just yet. I like to believe that this is exactly how a scenario in the US would go. This friendship alliance is exactly how the beaver would be used in a US season. Or would it? Because your decisions are more under a microscope than ever before, and if you make an incorrect decision, as someone like Aurora did, you may waste your save and the goodwill of the viewers watching. During episode 6, the lip sync slay-offs, we saw the final use of the Golden Beaver after just 5 short episodes of calculated moves from each queen, with the exception of Kit and Caboodle in week 1. When Nira chose to save Denim in an almost entirely fair manner, taking into account track record and performance overall in the challenge, just as Kitten had done in week 1. However, Nira and Denim did have an alliance, and this played out in the show, and we got to see that happen in real time, whether it was admitted or not. The short reign of the Golden Beaver was almost disappointing, as we were getting to a point in the season where alliances would need to be broken in order to keep progressing in the competition. It would have been so intriguing to see what would have happened next, and how the queens would have continued to subvert any production plans for the top 4, and what a cast-selected queen would look like going into the top 4. Could this format exist synergistically with the US season? And the very clear heavy-handedness of how RuPaul and production manage a season. I think it's clear to me and many others that in a US season, a clear top group is selected very early on, and those people are edged towards the finale, with RuPaul making calculated moves to keep her favorites in the race, even down to changing lip syncs in favor of someone she and production want to keep around. With this heavy-handedness, they would lose all control of how to produce the show. And I don't think a format like this would be conducive to a healthy season for production, but may instead have a healthier environment for the queens in the room. Many queens talk about the toxicness of the drag race whirlwind, and I think it would lead to a healthier environment for the queens in this scenario, that they wouldn't feel as cucked by production, that they would feel that they had a little more agency to do what they wanted to do. They could play the game how they wanted to, regardless of how fair that situation was, as we saw in Canada. But again, I think would be healthier overall. I ran a few scenarios involving the Golden Beaver in various All-Star seasons, and found that the seasons tend to shake out similarly to how they originally aired, but with a bit more overt favoritism from queen to queen on their alliances formed during the show. I don't know if a Golden Beaver would work out perfectly in an All-Stars season, but it would be just messy enough to survive in a mainline season, Imagine the unadulterated chaos of Lucy LaDuca or Mistress Isabel Brooks, Lux Nora London having beaver powers. I think something like a bottom 3 save would add a shot of life into Drag Race, which has frankly started to feel a little bit stale and dank. The last few seasons feel so overproduced and feel like they're distinctly lacking an energy that something like the Golden Beaver would really bring back. I think something like this could be incorporated into an all-stars season with the entire cast potentially voting on a bottom 3 and the challenge winner voting on who should stay of those bottom 3. Again, this would take the power out of RuPaul and the production, but I think it would make everything feel a lot more fair because the people who are on the ground get to decide who moves on with them, who gets to stay in the show that they're all running. What did you think of the Golden Beaver? Do you think it could work on a RuPaul judge season? As much as I would love to see this incorporated across Drag Race, I don't think it could ever work on something that RuPaul's hands are directly on. Maybe if Ru ever stops judging and hands the reins over to someone else, this could be incredible to see. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Goodbye. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to click that like button. And if you want to see more, hit subscribe. Goodbye.